Good morning. This is Jason Dean coming at you again. It is 9:50 on a Tuesday morning. So I just uploaded a video of well, this video and then yesterday's video are videos that of movies. Oh, actually, in the movie before that, the review I just put up on Sofia Coppola's movie. These videos are all movies that I just rented for the first time at Opera House Video, and so which was great, and had some good finds, good picks. So today's show is on this movie that came out called The Blob from 1988, and I have this on DVD. I don't own The Blob, but after watching it last night, my God, this movie just kicked ass in every way. The Blob is actually a remake. The original came out in, was it 1958. There's the original 58 version, which is I believe it was a black and white version of the Blob, and it was, that's a classic movie. I mean, it's a classic. I haven't seen it in a very long time, but classic sci-fi from the 50s. During the 50s and 60s were just an amazing period in Hollywood as far as the all the B movies that were coming out, all the amazing science fiction movies coming out, Forbidden Planet. I mean, just so many great movies. That's probably my favorite out of that whole genre. But so I watched The Blob last night, and I have not. I remember really loving that movie. It came out in 1988, and I have not seen The Blob in, oh geez, so in such a long time. It was directed by Charles Russell, and Russell directed The Blob in 1988, The Mask in 94. He directed one of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, Nightmare on Elm Street 3. He directed, which came out in 87. He did a Schwarzenegger movie called Eraser in 96. The Scorpion King in 2002. It's pretty funny. But this movie just kicked ass. I think it's one of those examples of where, at the end of the day, it's probably better than the original. As classic as the original movie is, The Blob from '58, this movie is just killer. I mean, it's total campy, classic '80s horror exploitation. I mean, the practical effects in this movie are just jaw dropping. The cast is great. Matt Dillon is in this film. I forgot that he was in this. The cast, the writing is just fabulous. It's just classic sci-fi and horror. I mean, the kills in this film are just amazing. And I think this movie is, again, it's very campy. It's pretty silly, but it's generally scary. The actual creature, the organism, the blob, is merciless in this film, and there is. I remember, I don't know, it was a couple of years ago. I was watching a show, or actually, I should say, I was talking. No, it was a guy that I know on Facebook, and he has one or two, or at least at the time, this was a couple of years ago, a guy that I've talked with before a few times on Facebook, and we have a lot of we're both into music. He's also a drummer. He at that time had a couple of different podcast shows, and he did this one show where it was kind of a Halloween special, and they were talking about Halloween movies that he was talking about certain Halloween movies that he really loved, and he also talked about movies that he felt were generally scary. And he talked about the Blob, this remake from '88, during the show, and he showed during when he was talking about the movie, he was saying how well there's this one scene in the Blob that he felt was probably the most terrifying scene ever filmed in the entire horror genre period. I was like, whoa, like that's pretty serious. And again, I at the time I have not watched The Blob in so long, and I remember loving it as a kid. It came out in '88. It's classic '80s, kind of a B movie thing, and he showed the clip that he was talking about, and my jaw dropped. I forgot the scene on one hand, but then I realized, wow, that is one of the most terrifying, horrific kills I have ever seen in my life. And it stuck in my brain. And so I rented it yesterday after not seeing it for so long. And I have to say this movie is amazing. It like I said before, I think it's one of the best remakes ever. It's a standalone movie, totally standalone. It's you can just see this film at face value. Definitely a movie that would be incredible to own on Blu-ray, but man, it totally kick ass. And again, the direction was great. The whole '80s vibe, that whole kind of B movie exploitation thing was there. The star of the show was the practical effects. Like the practical effects in this movie are just amazing. Like really, really good. The kills are just really inventive. It's super gory too. It's brutally gory. And I remember this movie back in the day, and I always liked it. I always loved it. Again, it's been years, but I definitely want to buy this on Blu-ray. I mean, I can imagine this was like a DVD copy of the film, but it's still really good. But I think especially visually, because this movie really pops in that light. Getting this, or even seeing this on Blu-ray or 4K would be pretty badass. And it's funny because this movie is from '88, and I just uploaded a movie review for a film that I also watched, which was Falling Down, which was from '93. So a movie that was obviously a few years later. And it's an interesting thing. It's kind of a thing that fascinates me, and it's probably something that I probably shouldn't think about because I don't know, it's kind of nerdy or stupid, but it also really fascinates me too, mainly because it's the idea of like when you have a film or a series of films that come out during a particular decade, you know older films, and then you watch them now in 2024. And not that we're like at some enlightened age, because we're really not, but you just you watched certain films in certain stages of your life, and it's a real interesting curiosity of mine to see if films, especially movies that I grew up watching or that I saw a lot when I was a kid, if they just hold up now. And I did a review on Falling Down, which was a Michael Douglas film, and again, both movies are definitely they definitely are all about their respected decades, the '90s and the '80s. They encapsulate all of those kind of tropes of those decades. And Falling Down is that movie was just awful and very dated, but not in a good way. And it's an interesting thing because The Blob is super dated, and the film was shot in the '80s. '88 is when it came out, and it has, of course, it's based to remake from the original 1958, which is a classic, and it does have. It's interesting because it was shot in the '80s, '88, but it does have that kind of '50s vibe, even though at the time the actual setting of that movie, of the remake, is supposed to be very modern, but yet it does have this like 50s kind of small. The whole film takes place in this kind of small town, and but it has that vibe. It captures that perfectly. But then it does have this like 50s vibe to it, which is really great. Another science fiction movie that I love to death is Night of the Creeps. Classic 80s, B movie exploitation movie. And that movie also has, I think, a 50s vibe because that was very much inspired by, movies that came out like, in the 50s, 60s, like the original Blob. And it has that same kind of thing where it's shot and set in that modern time that the film came out and was directed in, but yet it has um, very much a 50s vibe. It's a cool balance and how they did that. And that all being said, the Blob just so uh, uh, is timeless. It's so great, so awesome. And again, it's that fine line because it is very much dated, but those qualities that could hinder or hurt a movie, case in point, Falling Down, totally work in the context of what the Blob is or was. It totally makes the film even more enjoyable. You have a nostalgic kind of feeling when you watch the film, but it has this timeless quality to it, and it's not really stuck. It doesn't have a feeling of where it was kind of stuck in the mud, and it just doesn't age well. But The Blob is totally exemplifies a movie that I think probably has just gotten better with age. It's awesome. I highly recommend it. In my future travels, I'm gonna look for it at least on DVD or Blu-ray. Very much, very much. I just thought it was awesome, and I would really love to get get it on Blu-ray or at least see it on Blu-ray. The other thing that's so cool about this movie is the ending is so awesome. It's super creepy. It's super dark. Yeah, fabulous movie, 1988. I totally love this movie. It felt so good to watch something really, really good after watching a really crappy, shitty movie. So, yeah, highly recommend it. It's the bomb. All right, peace.